Hello and welcome to the session number 6 of AdWords Academy, AdWords Bootcamp. And so Mike, you've got some things to say about conversion and some things to say about analytics and some things to say about Tag Manager. And
I do.
Conversion tracking and all of that is so absolutely vital. I think we've used this metaphor before. Imagine hopping in your vehicle and driving down the road without a fuel gauge, without a speedometer, and without an odometer or anything else, and see how far you get before you either run out of fuel or you get pulled over. And so good luck with that.
Here's the visual. Here's the visual for your story.
There's the visual. Now get into a vehicle that actually flies through the air and see how you do with that. So tell us what you.
I thought I'd tie it together. So we started the very, very first module with this image, and we talked about how easy AdWords used to be. And if you ain't tracking, this is what happens.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty.
No.
And there's a saying in flying, and it is very applicable to what we're talking about today. Amateurs fly visually, professionals use instruments, and that's what we're talking about, using instruments to measure what's going on. So because we have to know what's profitable. It's still in 2015, people will come to us and say, well, we just want more traffic, and they want to measure by clicks, or even worse. Actually, we had a guy probably a couple of years ago now. They had $100,000 a month budget, and all they wanted to measure was impressions. They had a media plan in front of them that guaranteed them 20 million impressions a month, and they were about to sign that. And we said, yeah,
I'll bet some salesperson was excited about that.
Yeah, they were about to get the 10% cut and do no work because they didn't have to care about results.
Right.
They actually went ahead and spent about 5 or 10 on that media plan, which was fantastic because it gave us the baseline for that first month. And the AdWords stuff that we ran was 100 times more profitable. The media buying got leads at $5,000 a lead, and we got them for $55 a lead. So almost 100 times, not quite, but what's 95 times between friends. And they were still bitching and whinging about paying our fee. So there you go.
Life in the real world, right?
It's results that matter. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What to track, I'll remind you of a couple of slides that I've shared in the very first module. A little bit of Avanash magic, and then we'll talk about the two main ways to track these things: AdWords conversion tracking and Google Analytics. I'm not going to go super deep into everything else that analytics can do because I gave you my 2.5-hour workshop presentation in the first module. If you want sort of the high level of analytics and my favorite reports, a little bit more detail on how to set it up, then go watch that workshop, which was shared in the first module. Today I'm going to talk more about just the tracking side of analytics. This isn't an analytics course after all. I had to draw the line somewhere. We could go really deep into that. We could probably do another 4 sessions just on analytics. But today, just the basics of that, and then a little bit on Google Tag Manager at the end, which we try and use on at least every lead gen account that we work on, if not the e-commerce, just because it can be a little bit harder to get installed for e-commerce depending on who's in charge of the code. Good old web devs. So we'll start with, what do you want to track? There's obviously lots and lots of different things that you could track. I've shared this URL before, but if you haven't yet read Avanash's infamous blog post on macro and micro conversions, please do. It is a bit of a printed out, sit in front of the fire for 20 minutes with a cup of coffee type blog post. It's not a quick skim, as all of his blog posts tend to be. And if you're not subscribed to Occam's Razor, then you really want to be. But this is a fantastic blog post that really dives into the detail, and I can't do it justice here in a couple of minutes. But essentially, every website has a macro conversion. that's probably going to be the thank you page for a lead gen site, so people that make it through your contact form or your book a quote form or your in-home measure and quote, whatever it might be. They've made it through that form, they've landed on the thank you page. I'll talk about the thank you pages in a second. Or for an e-commerce site, obviously people that buy your stuff and make it through to the receipt page. But there's also a whole bunch of micro conversions that if we only track those macro conversions, so let's say you're an e-commerce site and you've got a conversion rate of, let's say you're doing fairly well, you've got a conversion rate of 2%. If you only track that macro conversion, you are essentially ignoring 98% of traffic, and you're saying that all of that 98% is all useless. And clearly it's not. Clearly there's going to be some people that came in and bounced within 10 seconds. Well, that's pretty useless, but that's probably only 20-30% of your traffic. There's this huge chunk in the middle that did stuff, these other things that you have deemed important because you put them on your website. You've got PDFs of product specs, you've got phone numbers, you've got videos you want people to watch. You've got Facebook and Google Plus and YouTube and LinkedIn icons. You've got them there because you want people to click on them. Therefore, there is some value when people do those things. So what you'll get when you go through Avanash's post is you'll go through and look at your website with fresh eyes and think about what are all of the things that you want people to do. You don't have to get absolutely everything, but get the main ones. But at least one. There has to be at least something. You know, what's the point of the website? There has to be at least one. At a minimum, grab one of these. If you're e-commerce, then we're going to tag the receipt page, and we're going to say, yeah, people that hit the receipt page, that's what I want them to do. If you're a lead gen site, then people that make it to your thank you page. But do sort of go and have a look at it through fresh eyes and go, in a perfect world, if I could, I don't know how to yet, but what are all of the things that I want to track? And then we'll talk about this bit in a second. First, though, I do want to talk about thank you pages. For me, the second most important page on the site. And the first is not what you're thinking, but it's actually because of the user. So we've all seen those forms, and you put your details in the forms, and either the page doesn't change, and a little tiny message, usually in green, pops up across the bottom. Thank you for submitting your details. We'll be in touch soon. Or they bounce you back to the home page, so you're not actually sure if all the information that you just filled in actually went anywhere and was actually received by the person on the other end. What you want is a separate thank you page, so it's got its own URL, and when someone fills in that form, they get bounced through to that thank you page, which doesn't just say, thanks for submitting your details, we'll be in touch soon, because this sets up what happens next. So the form was all about getting conversion. What needs to happen next is consumption. If they don't consume, what happens next? If they don't actually download your product, if they don't actually receive the phone call when your sales guy calls them up in half an hour, then nothing's going to happen. So use this opportunity to talk about those next steps so that they are, and warm them up for that thing that's going to happen next. If they're going to get a phone call, tell them the number that they're going to get the phone call from. Show them a picture of who's going to call. Tell them what questions you're going to ask them on that call so that they feel prepared and they feel smart. People like to feel smart. They're much more likely then to take your call and to be engaging with you on the phone because they're expecting it now. It's not some random sales guy calling them that they've forgotten. And the key there as well is to call quickly. I haven't got stats on that in front of me, but there was a study done 3-4 years ago in the States across a wide range of industries. I'll try and remember these stats off the top of my head, but if you call within 24 hours, you increase your chances of conversion by about 17%. If you call within, I think the next one was about 30 minutes, that bumps up a little bit. Within 3 minutes, that bumps up to around about, I think it was 68%. But if you call them within a minute, that jumped up to 391%. So you are 5 times more likely to make that sale if you can call someone within a minute of them giving you their details. And whenever I mention that to small businesses, they say, yeah, that's lovely. Which world do you live in? I can't possibly get my sales guys to call back within a minute. To which my answer is, you have this thing called a telephone on your desk, and when it rings, you pick it up. You probably even have a 3-ring policy in the office. Treat your inbound leads like a ringing phone and answer them as soon as they happen. Drop what you're doing like you would picking up a phone. You stop writing the email you read. Don't continue writing the email and say, I'll get to that ringing phone in about 40 seconds. No, you just stop and you pick up the phone. So do the same with inbound leads. I'm wandering off on tangent already, and it's only 10 past 8 in the morning. Right, 4 user experience. That's the main reason you want a thank you page. The other huge benefit is from a tracking point of view. Analytics uses the URL of the page for its tracking. Now, there are funky ways that you can do event tracking beyond the scope of this course. We're not going to talk about event tracking today. Go search for that if you think it's something that you're interested in. But to make life easy so that your web dev doesn't screw it up, having a separate thank you page with its own URL makes life infinitely easier. It gives you a page on which to put the conversion tracking code that we're going to talk about in a second. And so you can see in analytics how many people actually made it to the page with the form on, and how many of those made it through to the thank you page.
That was a good tangent, by the way.
Thanks.
Because it's important. And it's true as far as anything we've ever tested and observed.
Oh, and if you think about it, I mean, okay, so I'll wander back to my tangent now. A lot of people are not looking at your website in isolation. People tend to forget this because they forget that their competition is actually quite good, or how the average prospect uses the web. They're looking at 3 or 4 of your competitors' sites in the same space of time. They don't come to Google today and only click on one link and go, oh, I've got everything I need, thanks, I'm done. They're probably filling in 2 or 3 or 4 of those forms. And if you can call them back within a minute of them filling out the form on your site, they're probably still on your site. Yeah. But a thank you video on your thank you page, make your thank you page a bit more sticky. Maybe they're still on the thank you page when you call them. Oh, you're the guy in the video. I'm watching you at the moment. And then you're into the phone call. And you get there before your competitors do. It's really easy, but people treat those inbound leads as, oh yeah, well, whatever, it's just another email in my inbox. I'll get to it within 48 hours, at which point the lead is gone. So anyway, tangent over, / tangent. Options, right. I'm going to give you 3. At the basic level, by the end of this, everybody's going to have at least one main or macro conversion, one thing that we're going to track. That's a very basic. At the other end of the scale, you can go through your website with a fine-tooth comb and think about all of those macro and micro conversions. We did one for a client recently who had 25 individual things that we identified on their website that ought to be tracked. Now for them, they wanted the full box of dice, and that was important. You don't normally need 25. You don't need to go to that level. I'm going to suggest that in AdWords, you track your main macro conversion, so your main thank you page or thank you pages, or your e-commerce receipt page, plus phone calls. Phone calls, depending on the system you're using, and there's some good ones, particularly in the States, like CallRail, Mongoose Metrics, if by phone, but it's harder to get that data accurately into analytics, and you're going to need some development help to do that, unless you're using Google's call tracking. Google's call tracking is fantastic. We'll talk about that a little later on this call, but using AdWords to track phone calls, much, much easier than using those third parties. And if you want to track some of those other micro conversions, downloads of PDFs, clicks on your Facebook button, etc., I'm going to suggest that you track all of those in Google Analytics, which is what GA stands for at the bottom, but don't import those across into AdWords yet. If you've got all of these different conversion types, it can get a little bit confusing. Now, if you get it all set up right and you've got different values for all of those different things that you want to track, and I'll talk about that in a second, then fine, knock yourself out. But when you're starting out, to keep life simple, track the big things only in AdWords. So people making it through to your thank you page, people calling you, those big inbound leads, rather than tracking all of the PDFs and social buttons and everything else. because they obviously have different value to the business. And in terms of conversion rate, oops, I generally want to aim for something in this range, somewhere around about 3 to 30%. So if you have a website and let's say your conversion rate, I've seen one of these recently, their e-commerce conversion rate was 0.0 something, I think it was. Let's just say it was 0.1. It was horrible. It's less than 1%, 0.1%. Then you're going to get absolutely no data on which to optimize that account. You're selling for 1 in 1,000 people. You've got to send a lot of people to the website to have any idea what was good traffic and what was bad traffic. If that's the case, what you do is you move the conversion action a little bit up the funnel. So instead of saying people that made it all the way to my thank you page, how about people that made it to my checkout page? And if that's really terrible, well, people that added a product to the cart. So that I end up with a conversion rate somewhere in this range, because a conversion rate of 0.1 is useless. I can't do anything with it. But at the other end of the scale, let's take the extreme example of you put your conversion tracking pixel on the landing page, you'd have a conversion rate of 90, 95, maybe even 100%. Well, that's useless too, because then all traffic is good traffic, and that doesn't give you anything to optimize by either. So you can move around or choose the conversion that you want to track to end up with something in this range, because that's what's going to give you the most data by which you can then go and improve things and optimize your account. So,
and that's just a different extension and application of a principle that Perry taught people years ago, and other good marketers have always taught, which is if your marketing machine isn't working, or if you want to just improve your marketing machine, pick the machine into pieces, pick it apart into pieces, and work on the individual pieces. And so, Mike, the advice you're giving is, it's just a corollary of that. Find individual stages in the machine that you can measure and track and observe, and boom, all of a sudden you're not a slave to one single big monolithic number like 0.1%. trying to make some sense out of that. So
that's okay. They only spend $250,000 a month on TV, so I'm sure that, and they don't want to do conversion rate optimization. Anyway, moving on.
Wow.
But yeah, very good point. Very good point. Pick it apart, and it's the whole how do you eat an elephant thing. Right. AdWords conversion tracking. So we'll dig deep into this first, because this is probably what most of us on the call have in place, I'm hoping, at this point. And then we'll talk about other ways that you can do it, including Tag Manager, which is a way to just install this code. And I'm going to keep it fairly code-friendly, so you don't have to be a coder or a geek or a dev to understand this. So let's start with the basics. Inside your AdWords account, you can look across the top and go to Tools, and then find Conversions in that drop-down. So even though it is just about the most important thing that you can do in AdWords, it is a little hidden, but it's got to be somewhere. Tools, Conversions, and then you can look for that big red conversion button, because the first time you do this, obviously you have no conversions in your account. They've just prettied this up in the last few weeks, so it now looks like this. When you go into there, you now have to select the source of the conversion. Now, I'm only going to talk about two in detail, and that's website and phone calls. If you're doing stuff with apps, then that's beyond the scope of this course. Wander into here and click that little Learn More link. I will talk very briefly on the import option, but probably thinking that doesn't really apply to very many of us on this call. So we'll pick on website first. So you click on website, and then you get this screen. And it's pretty simple, but let's walk through each of these 6 options. Obviously, you've got to pick a name. As it says, pick a name you're going to easily recognize. So this isn't the place to try and put some little short code in there that in 3 weeks' time you can't remember what it meant. Value. I'm going to talk a lot about value today. Every single conversion in your account, be that what we're doing here in terms of AdWords conversion tracking, or when we get to Google Analytics, even if it is a click on that Facebook button or a download of a PDF, every single goal has some sort of value. This is probably the main mistake I see with accounts that do have conversion tracking. I would say that's probably an 80-20 rule. Probably 80% of them don't have any values set up. The problem with that is that you then don't have any data to compare apples to apples. Everything is valued at 0, and you can't tell if that was a good click or a really good click or a somewhat good click. Having different values for different goals, ultimately, that's again an Avinash post that I'll give you the link to shortly, is essential. So always, always, always stick a value. And if you have no idea what to put in that window, in that little box, just stick a 1. That's fine. But at least then all of your reports are much, much more useful. You're able then to get much better information. So value, put something in there. If it's an inbound lead to your business, we talked about this right in the first module of how you might want to sort of calculate what a lead is worth to you. If you think a lead is worth $100 to the business because you need 10 leads to sell something worth $1,000 and you sell 1 in 10, 1,000 divided by 10, $100. Awesome. Let's call a lead worth $100. So stick 100 in here. It doesn't matter. It's not a dollar value that anything is connected to. It's just a points game. So play the game, pick a value, stick it in that box. Count. This gets a little confusing. If you're old school AdWords, then you'll remember there used to be 2 options here, 1 per conversion and many per conversion. Google changed the name about a week after we submitted the book to the publisher, and we had to redo that chapter. They changed the name about a year ago, and 1 per conversion became unique conversions or converted clicks, and many per became all conversions or conversions. So I like to think of this in terms of the 1 per click, the converted clicks, unique conversions here, is people doing what you want them to do. All conversions is the things that they do. So if one person downloads 3 PDFs and fills in a form and calls you, they did 5 things. So all conversions is going to show us 5, but it was 1 person that did those 5 things. And depending on what you want to track, for me, it's often more valuable to know how many individuals did I get to my site that did stuff. There might be some people doing loads and loads of things, but I'm usually more interested in the number of people that I got to do. So pick all conversions if you're not sure, because if you pick all, you can still have both types of data will exist down the track. So you can still have your different columns, your different conversion columns later on. So if you're not sure, leave that as all. Conversion window, you do not need to change unless you're a bit of an AdWords rock star and you've got a really, really good reason for changing the conversion window. So you can leave that alone. Category is meaningless, but it's just something that you can use to remind yourself of the type of conversion action this is. Is it a lead? Is it a sale? So you can change that if you want to. You don't need to. And then leave the optimization at the bottom to allow bid optimization because you don't know if you're going to use that yet. So you fill all of that out. And at the bottom, you then get a chunk of code that looks like this with a little email instructions and tag. So if all of that is gobbledygook to you, press the second button and put your web developer, your friendly web geek, your niece, whoever's looking after your website, put their email in the box on the next page and send all that gobbledygook off to them and say, please read the instructions and install this code on the thank you page of my site. So conversion tracking code only goes on the pages like the thank you page that you want to track. So someone has successfully gone through the form and made it to the thank you page. This does not go on every page of the site. Very important. Assign value. We've said it a number of times already, but I am going to hammer this point home. Every single goal has a value. Please. Right. Next big one. Phone calls. So you click on phone calls, hit select underneath there, and you get 3 options with phone call conversions. Calls from ads using your call extensions. We're going to use call extensions. We talked about those where module 3-ish when we talked about ads. We're going to have call extensions, and probably we're going to use that Google forwarding number if it's available in your country. The other one we're going to talk about is calls to a Google forwarding number on your website. So we talked about that briefly earlier, but this is where you can swap out the number that you have on your website and put a Google number on there, but only for traffic that comes from AdWords. So this kind of fills in the missing piece. We always knew that if we're sending a lot of AdWords traffic to a website, that yes, we generate lots of people filling out forms or downloading PDFs or whatever the goal of that site may be, but there were also people that were calling the number on that site. And unless you used a third party like CallRail or Call Dynamics here in Australia, then that was difficult, if not impossible, to track. With the new Google system, not only is it dead easy to track and all of the data ends up in the right place, it's also completely free. So if that's available in your country, you want to be doing that. And then mobile websites, which I won't go into great detail about. Same thing, looks exactly the same. The only difference here is we have a call length in the middle here, third one down. So you can choose and set a length there, and once that call ticks past this point, then it's recorded as a conversion. So I think the default is 60 seconds. We often bump that down to 30 seconds depending on the type of website. You might have a client for whom anything less than a 5-minute call isn't really a conversion, but choose your call length there. That just gets rid of all of the junk calls. Anyone that called and then, wrong number or whatever, and they're off the phone within 5 seconds, you're not counting those as conversions. On the next screen, you've got your phone number at the top, so that's the number that the call is ultimately going to end up at. And yes, you can use a cell phone or a mobile phone number in there if you want to. I'm going to suggest, if it's available for you, that you use the Google forwarding number. This is still a little buggy. They have improved the system greatly since they launched this. But if it's available in your country, just the wealth of extra data that you get and the ease of getting it far outweighs any minor problems. And then down at the bottom in the advanced section, count these calls as phone call conversions and pick the name of the conversion that you called on the previous page. In this case, I'll call it calls from extensions. It's pretty easy. The on-site call tracking is a little harder because these phone numbers, the call extensions, you've already put that into your account. We've already done that back in week 3. The on-site call tracking is going to require a little bit of code work. First bit's the same, exactly the same, set it up exactly the same. This time when you get down to the bottom there, the save instructions and tag, it spits out a text file that looks a bit ugly like this. Save that text file because you need that chunk of code, and you can see in the middle there is actually a link to the Google Help Center. So let me make that easy for you and give you a short code to that page. So grab a pen and write down that, and yes, I'll obviously put that short code in the Google Plus community. I need to make a note of that. Phone call short code. And within here, this is the page that you want to give to your web dev. And I'll give you the checklist. I can't tell you exactly how to do it because it's going to be different for every site and depending on the way your site is currently coded. So rather than confuse the issue and give you one out of many, many ways of doing it, I'll give you the overall framework, the checklist, to run by your web dev. There's 3 individual bits of code that need to happen here. That main chunk of code that we saw before, that has to go before the closing head tag. So in the head part of your document, just before the closing head tag. Again, if you're not a geek, you're not a coder, you can safely ignore the next 30 seconds. It's okay. It gets easy again in a minute. Second part, you need to wrap the phone number with a bit of code. So you need to find all of the instances of your original phone number on the page, and you need to wrap that with an extra little bit of code. And that little bit of code basically says, use this number unless I'm told to use something else, in which case I'm going to go grab a number from somewhere else and put that in here. So yes, it means that the phone number on your page has to be a text phone number first. You can't do this if the phone number on your site is actually a graphic or an image of a phone number. You have to turn it into text first, so that you can then wrap that bit of text with this code that says change this number to something else, if the person's coming from AdWords. And then you have to put a little bit of extra code down at the end, and that's the bit that's different every time. But that's why you want that page that I gave you the short code to before, which Brian has put in the chat area already for you. Thank you, Brian. So there's the three things. You have to have those 3 bits of code. Now, I've seen almost every web dev mess this up the first time they do it. If you want help with that, let me know in the Google Plus area. We have a service. I'm not here to flog it, but we have a service where we will do that for you and install all of that code for a fee for you. And if you think your web dev can't cope with that, then either send us an email at info@websavvy.com.au or flick me a message into the Google Plus area if you want help with that. But by all means, have a crack. Every web coder thinks they're going to do it because they're all a bit precious and they all think they're good. They will probably mess it up. Just saying. Make sure they read that big page. And then the third option, which we'll very briefly cover, just so that you know it is available, but I'm not going to go into detail around how to do it, is off-site call tracking. So I'll give you that URL to write down while I explain what this means. But if you generate lots of leads and then the sale happens typically over the phone, or maybe over the course of the coming weeks and months over the phone or in person, whatever that might be, that's always been very difficult to track, if not impossible. You can track the leads, but you couldn't track sales if you've got a long sales cycle. What this allows you to do, and if this is needed, go to this page and read all about it. But essentially what you can do is pass a little bit of information through when that person fills out the form. So you grab a little bit of gobbledygook from the Google system and pass that through into your database. So into your customer database, you've got Mrs. Jones, and she wants this service, and there's this line of gobbledygook which identifies which thing she clicked on over in AdWords. That all goes into your database. 7 weeks later, when you sell the thing to Mrs. Jones, you can grab the database, pull it out into a CSV file, push that CSV file back into Google, so you upload it into Google, and that line of gobbledygook identifies the click, and you can put that conversion, that sale, next to that click and say, that click from Mrs. Jones 7 weeks ago, she just bought and that was worth 20 grand. I want to add a conversion to my account with a value of 20 grand. Now, you only get one shot at this. You have to get it right. When you import that CSV file, you must get it right. There is no way to undo that. So make sure you test this with some low value conversions first. And then you can do this as often as you like. If you can do this daily, weekly, monthly, but yeah, make sure you get it right because there is no way to undo it.
If your transaction size is not $20,000, then it probably would be a good idea not to say $20,000.
It may confuse your bidding system a little.
Ms. Jones.
Yeah, you may end up bidding more than you plan to if you're using Conversion Optimizer. But yeah, just know that that is an option if you have that long sales cycle. All right, let's talk about Google Analytics.
So
do we have any questions around? Yeah, go on.
Oh, indeed we do. So, so let's see. So Chris says, how do you? Well, okay. Unless Chris violently objects, I'm going to save Chris's question because it's about analytics goals.
Okay.
I'll save that until the end of the analytics thing. Ken asks, this looks like this is different from importing goals from analytics. Is that correct? I import my goals from analytics, and I assume that that is just as efficient as creating conversion goals within AdWords.
Yep. And I'm going to talk all about that in this section, and we'll talk about the pros and cons in just a second.
Okay. And Philip had asked, what is call on site as distinct from a normal call? And Mike, did you answer that already with off-site call tracking when you explained that?
So call on-site, the first of those ones that I did. So somebody has come through to your website from the AdWords ad, and that's where we're going to swap out the number on your site with the Google tracking number. So if they're under your site but they don't fill out a form and they call that phone number, then you're able to track that, as opposed to somebody seeing, say, the little call extension box on your mobile ad and actually clicking that. In your account, that'll show up as calls from ads, people that click on that call extension. This call on-site is the people that have made it through to your website and then phone. That was the bit that was hard to track in the past.
Got it.
That's
All
it.
right.
Easy. All right. So we'll talk about analytics and, yeah, try and answer Ken's question. So the benefits, the pros, first of all, you already have analytics code on your website. Something like 56% of the web uses Google Analytics at this point, which is amazing. However, Google conversions are not shown in all of those AdWords reports in analytics. For whatever reason, they do not get imported into analytics. So yes, you can push your Google Analytics goals, which we're going to talk about in a sec, into AdWords, but you can't go the other way. So there are some benefits in having goals set up, because now all of your analytics, well, there's lots of benefits, all of your analytics reports are now usable as opposed to completely useless. So yeah, having goals in analytics is fantastic because you can't import those conversions. It's much more flexible to track stuff in analytics. It's easier to track a wider range of things. So AdWords is pretty much limited. There's some funky ways around some of this, but it's pretty much limited to tracking when people hit a particular page. It's URL based for the most part. You've got a piece of code on a page. If they make it to that page, the code fires and that triggers the conversion, i.e. people make it to your thank you page, triggers the conversion code, got another one. Analytics, you can track, you can say somebody stayed on my site for longer than 3 minutes, call that a goal. Somebody read 6 pages of my blog, call that a goal. And these little things called events, which again, can't go into here because it's beyond the scope of this course, but event tracking is fantastic and very, very powerful. An event could be somebody clicking on a button, like a social media button, or a add to cart button. You know, if you've got an e-commerce site where you don't actually, the page doesn't change, you don't immediately go through to the cart page, but somebody clicks the add to cart button, that might be important to you just to track what percentage of people add products to the cart. Event tracking is your best friend there. And you get much more detailed reporting. The conversion reporting inside of AdWords really isn't all that good, considering how important it is to the multi-billion-dollar business. The reporting in analytics is much, much better. However, it's much harder to track phone calls in analytics, so you would have to use a third-party system like CallRail or Call Dynamics in order to do that. There is a lag in the data. So what we're talking about here is if you create an analytics goal, exactly like I think it was Ken was talking about before, you can, I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, import that into AdWords. But it takes, and the quote in the Help Center is up to 48 hours. Oh, actually, no, I think they say up to 2 days, which is 48 hours generally, but you know, up to 2 days for that data to appear in AdWords. We've got an account that we're running at the moment where it takes 3 or 4 days for that data to appear in analytics. So when the client wants a report on last week, we can't actually send that report to them until about Thursday because it takes so long for the data to catch up. AdWords conversion tracking, they just changed this about 2 days ago. There was a buried on the product manager's Google Plus page. There was a post. If anyone's interested, I can I'll stick a post in the Google Plus area around the freshness of data. I'll just make a note to myself there. And they've improved how quickly AdWords conversion data gets reported in the system. That was just a couple of days ago. Analytics, there is this lag. Also, very, very good to know that they calculate them completely differently. So the way Google Analytics goals work and the way AdWords conversion tracking works, or the way AdWords and analytics work in general, is very different. I think I decided not to put the big crazy table in this presentation because it was a bit confusing, but that short code there, if Brian gets a chance to type that in, that if you really want to know the detail of how everything is calculated differently, then go check out that page in the Google Help Center. So let's go and create a goal. Let's assume there is.
Do you mind popping back to that last slide?
Thank you. And thank you for doing that because I can't. Keynote will freak out if I try and type into Go Webinar Control Panel.
Perfect.
But I can see it popping up on my other screen, so thank you for doing that. Got it? Beauty. All right. So let's go through the process of creating that goal and importing it, because it's good to know how to do that and what can go wrong. You can't import it into AdWords until you start to get data. First thing we need to do before we get to goals is to make sure that analytics and AdWords are properly linked. And there's actually 4 places that we need to check this is all set up to get the best out of this and to get all of the right data. So first 2 we're going to do in analytics first. So you log into analytics, you go to the admin tab across the top there, and you've got 3 columns in your Google Analytics. On the left is account level stuff, then you have property level stuff in the middle, and then view over on the right. Again, sorry, it's not an analytics course, I'm not going to go deep into all the differences there, but just make sure that you're in the middle column. It's the only where this one shows up, but AdWords linking is a property level setting. And then in there, you're going to make sure that your AdWords account is properly linked to the view that you want. So you're going to link that there. While in Analytics and while on the Admin tab, you then want to go to the account level, the left-hand column, and in Account Settings, make sure that your data is being shared between Google products. If you don't do this, you can't import, let's say, your e-commerce site in particular, you can't then import the revenue amount of a transaction as the amount that you want to use as the goal value. That box has to be ticked. Now, flick into Google AdWords, find the cog icon top right, and choose Account Settings first of all. That'll bring you to the Preferences screen. You want to make sure that tracking down there says yes to auto tagging. Some web devs, for whatever reason, will turn that off and use all this gobbledygook, these things called UTM parameters, to do tracking. You do not want to do that between AdWords and Analytics. More than happy, I'm delighted if you use UTM tracking parameters for your Facebook or your Bing ads. Fantastic. Gold star, but do not use them inside of AdWords because they'll break a whole bunch of your analytics reports. If you are doing that, you need to look into something called value track parameters instead. And then the last part in Google AdWords, while you're on that account account preferences page, under linked accounts, over on the left there, you've got Google Analytics, and you want to link AdWords back into Analytics. I know it seems ridiculous because you've just told Analytics to link to AdWords, but you need to do it in both places. This gives you extra data inside of AdWords, all those analytics columns that you can turn on in your data. And while you're there, if you have a Google Webmaster Tools account, link that as well. That's going to get you some extra data. So 4 places that you want to link. Now we want to go create our goal in Analytics. So I'm hoping that most people, I think at this stage, will probably have a goal set up, but I often see this done wrong. So I did want to go into, just walk through this and call out the thing that usually gets done wrong, excuse me. So now we're going to go to the bit that we haven't been to, the right-hand column, the view column in our admin panel, and look for goals, the 3rd one down, at least at this point in time it is. And when you click into goals, you get this option. There are 4 types. I'm going to really just focus on the first one, but I have just touched on the others already. You can set a goal as being a duration, how long people stay on your site, or how many pages or screens, if you're doing apps, how many pages people look at, e.g. 3 pages there, or events. All of those things I showed right at the beginning in terms of clicking buttons, watching videos, downloading PDFs, even which fields people fill out in a form. You can set all of that up as event tracking, and that's wonderful to do, but you don't need to worry about that yet. The main one you're going to worry about is the destination. So you tick destination and hit next step. And now we go fill in the goal details. So the bit I usually see done wrong here is that destination URL. I usually see the whole URL in there, http mydomain.com/jobs apply now, for instance. You don't want all of that other stuff. It will often actually work, and you may find if you go into your setting that you might find that in there. It does often still work. It's not meant to work, so change that to be the proper thing. I mean, the example is written right underneath there. If you use this instead of this, they tell you exactly what to do, but I often see that done wrong. And again, please, 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 please assign a value. If you have no idea what to put in value, stick a 1 in there, but turn value on, flick that switch across to on, and put something in that field. It makes all of your reports so much more valuable. And here's the link to Avinash's page. Again, another decently long blog post where he goes into great detail around how to calculate what number to put in that box. This is also in my analytics workshop that you've got access to from Module 1. I probably spent the first half hour of that 2.5-hour workshop walking through Avinash's methodology in pretty great detail. So please do that. It is such a good exercise to go through. If you don't like reading blog posts, then go watch my video, but do that exercise and it'll help you look at your website through fresh eyes. Again, every single time, please have a value for your goals, for your conversions. All right, and now what we want to do, once we've got that goal set up, once they've got some data, so you can't do this immediately, unfortunately, you have to wait until that goal fires and it's got some data there. Now we can import those goals into AdWords. So we go into the conversion section of our AdWords account. We know how to do that now. And you're going to look for this imported from Google Analytics link. And you're just going to click on that and choose from the various goals. You may have more than one, in which case you choose from those links, and then you can see them showing up differently inside your list of conversions in AdWords. That source column will show them as coming from Analytics. If you want to change the name of the conversion in AdWords, you're out of luck. You must change the name over in Google Analytics. It will import whatever you call it in Analytics, and it will use the value that you use in Analytics.
So here I think is where Chris's question was, how do you remove Google Analytics goals that have already been imported into AdWords?
You can, the little checkbox next to it, I don't think you can actually ever remove conversions, but you can turn that off. So you tick on that little checkbox down there in the bottom left corner, and then the button up there top right, which is grayed out, change status. Then you can say, forget about this one, please, in AdWords. The only danger of using both, so again, if you use converted clicks, unique conversions, the number of people that did stuff, then that number isn't going to double up. If you have AdWords conversion tracking and analytics, converted clicks isn't going to double up. You don't need to worry about it there. But I have seen instances where people use a value inside of, I've seen an e-commerce site that did this, and they used a nominal value of, let's say, like $100 a sale as an AdWords conversion value, and then they also imported the analytics transactions with the actual revenue of the sale, and they were then looking at the conversion value field, and they thought they were doing 400 grand a month in sales. Value was actually closer to 200 grand a month in sales. AdWords wasn't working quite as well as they thought. So that's the only danger in doubling up. Often that's something that comes up at this point. Are my goals going to double up? The value will double up, but the number of converted clicks won't. Hopefully that's about as clear as mud now. Before I move on to the next topic about automation and conversion optimizer, any other questions around GA goals or conversions?
Yeah, Ken says, regarding setting a goal, here's my issue. I sell many products, so the goal value is different every time depending on what products are purchased. I do know my average. Should I just put the average in as the value?
No, so e-commerce selling a wide range of products. As long as that tick is in the box that I showed you on one of those setup screens, the one on the account level screen, then you can push the transaction revenue across into AdWords as the conversion value. So let's say you've now got two conversions showing up in AdWords. You've got 2 clicks and they both converted. One of those has a value of $1.50 and the other one has a value of $3,000. Clearly, one click is far more valuable to you than the other. At that point, there are some additional columns that you can turn on. I'm not sure how much of that I've got coming up, but there are some additional columns. You've got total conversion value, and these live in the column picker. So you know how to customize columns by now. You go to the conversion group of attributes, and you scroll down that list until you find total conversion value. That will give you that extra column which will show you the $1.50 or the 3,000 or whatever it is next to each campaign or ad group or keyword, or wherever you want to show that data. And then there's a very, very useful one there, which is a value per cost. So what that tells you is it's almost a bit like a profit number in one sense. It tells you the total value of all of the conversions for that entity that you're looking at. Let's just say it's a keyword for the sake of argument. The total value divided by the cost that you spent. So a $1.50 sale that cost you $1.50 to get is going to show up as a 1 in that case. It's 1.5 divided by 1.5. The $3,000 sale, let's say that was a $10 click that it cost you, in which case you're going to see a 300 in that column, 3,000 divided by 10. So you can then use that column to decide what you should be bidding for different keywords. If one keyword is getting you a value per cost of 1, and you've got another keyword that's getting you a value per cost of 300, clearly you want to be bidding much more for the very valuable 300 keyword. And so if you have a situation like that, Ken, where you've got a wide range of products, a wide range of revenues, make sure that you are importing. Don't use AdWords conversion tracking, because at that point, well, there are ways around it. You can squirt that total revenue amount into AdWords conversion tracking, but again, it's going to take some custom coding. Far easier to do what you're doing using analytics. You just want to check that everything is set up properly and that it's passing the revenue amount across into AdWords as the conversion value. That's going to make life much easier for you.
I trust that was helpful for you there, Ken.
So lots of numbers with nothing to look at, always difficult.
Ken does say thanks, so
awesome.
I will take that as a yes. And so
he
Greg,
he
shoots, he scores. Had a friend in high school who used to yell that all the time. It was funny. If Greg asks, if I have a subscription site with 2 tiers, one is monthly and one is annual, would I set up separate thank you pages for each of those kinds of transactions so that I can set up separate values?
I would. Again, I'll come back to my 2 reasons. Part of it is the tracking. Yes, it's going to make life infinitely easier for you. I'm sure there are web devs out there that are going to tell you, no, you don't need to do that. I can do this funky thing with the code where I squirt this number here and just have 2 thank you pages. It makes life much, much easier. But also now, you probably want to treat those 2 people differently. The person that's just signed up for your annual, you probably want to give them a little bit more on the thank you page. You might want to put a video on that thank you page. You might want to give them some unadvertised bonuses. These are your best prospects after all. You might also want to tag those 2 groups of people. If you're selling enough where this makes sense, you might want to build 2 different remarketing lists out of those 2 people. Now you're thinking remarketing, but they've just bought, they've just spent money with me. If you've got enough people on those remarketing lists, you can create similar audiences of those remarketing lists, and you might want to be able to create a similar audience like all the people that just bought your monthly, and then remarket to or market to people that are just like all your buyers. That could be a really cool thing to do. We'll talk about that more next week when we get to module 7. But yeah, have 2 thank you pages. It's the short answer. It's going to make life much easier and give you more options of how to treat your best customers better than everybody else.
Good. And Philip asks, but you're welcome, Greg. Greg says thank you. So Philip asks, should you have different thank you pages for each product if a client has only around a dozen products?
Probably not. I mean, it depends on the range of those products. So if it's your standard e-commerce site and they've got a range of 12 or 12,000 products, then you're generally going to have 1 thank you page. If, like Greg, you've got 2 products and they are really quite different in terms of value, but also in terms of the value to your business of those different people, then I'd say, yeah, for Greg, 2 thank you pages. Would I go to the hassle and the trouble of building out 12 different pages? Probably not. 80-20 rule always applies. What's the payoff versus what's the cost? So you can, dynamically change the value. Assuming those 12 things that you're talking about all have different values, you can change the value of the conversion very easily in the code. And you're probably going to say thank you to all of those people in the same way. If there are massive differences, maybe it makes sense to have more than one thank you page, like with Greg, but most of the time you're only going to have one for an e-commerce type situation.
Philip indicates that that makes sense, so good.
Awesome, I'm glad it made sense to someone. All right, I will talk a little bit about automation. After you've been running for a little while, you may see a note like this pop up in that little alert section top right of your account. You have campaigns that are eligible to use Conversion Optimizer. Woohoo! Now, the eligibility for this, you have to have 15 conversions in a 30-day period for the most part. If you've got lots of campaigns that meet that criteria, then you will still have other campaigns where Google will let you use Conversion Optimizer even though they haven't hit that threshold yet, because it's saying, look, I understand I've got lots of data here to play with. I don't need to wait for this particular campaign to tick over that limit. I'm good, I've got it from here. And Google is basically saying, let me bid for you and I will get you leads for the target CPA that you specify. Now you can actually dig into the settings here and you can choose between target and maximum. They took this away for a while. It's now back in accounts. Target and max. First of all, if you choose to use Conversion Optimizer, this is in your campaign settings. You remember this from module 4 where we had focus on clicks and I will manually set my bids. We said we're always going to start with that. Once you get more than 15 conversions in the 30-day period, Google's going to prompt you to change to this, to use CPA bidding or cost per action bidding. I'm going to suggest that you don't do this yet. Google needs data to work well, and almost every time, Brian and I were chatting before we jumped on this call about a pretty high up guy that I've had some chats with in Mountain View. I actually sent some of our data to him about this because he was very surprised that we don't use this much, because I'd say 80% of the time where we have tried to use this option, results get worse. And he was very surprised. He thought it was always going to work better. He said, send me the data, I'll show it to the team. I guess we just run things pretty well because the automated system didn't beat us most of the time, at least not immediately. Basically what they came back with is, well, yeah, you need to give it more time. You need to wait a month or two. Well, in the real world, we generally don't have the luxury of working with a client, getting them $11 leads, and saying, right, now we're going to let Google take over, and all of a sudden your leads have jumped to $16, and don't worry, it'll come back down in a couple of months. Just keep wasting that money. In the real world, you turn that off again after 2 days, and you go back to doing what you were doing before. If you have a high propensity for risk, then knock yourself out and give this a try. Now, there are times I know of people in Planet Perry that do use this often, and a couple that pretty much use this on every single campaign that they run, which is great if you have the luxury of time to get this to work. Given enough data, so if you're doing sort of 100, 200 conversions a month, and it really you want a high number of conversions per ad group. This is the trick that I've learned over the past couple of years with this, is it's not so much the conversions at the campaign level. If you have 1,000 ad groups in that campaign and each individual ad group only has 1 or 2 conversions, then it won't work particularly well. If you have 5 ad groups and they've each got a dozen or a few dozen conversions at the ad group level, then this will work reasonably well. One huge caveat though, once you've put it in place, you can't make big changes. You can't then rip out all your ads or change your destination URL. You certainly can't change the conversion action and say, oh, well, I used to track people watching a video, now I want to change to people downloading a PDF. That really confuses the system, and that's going to mess up all of your bidding. But so there's your pros and cons, and a couple of tangents. This is how you do it if you want to do it. You open up your conversion settings, change it to focus on conversions. If you're going to do this, I would recommend that you do start with whatever the system recommends. That's going to be fairly equivalent to the current cost per lead that you're getting. If you're feeling brave, then you can throw in a custom target there. And if you really want, you can go into the advanced options and choose max CPA. So target CPA, $10.90 here, Google's going to try and get you leads for that target. A maximum, which might be, I don't know if I've got a screenshot coming up of the maximum for this one, but it might be around about, say, $20. It's usually quite a bit higher, and that's where Google's saying, I'm going to do everything I can not to go over that maximum. I'll try and get you leads for less, but I understand that not going over that limit is more important to you than aiming for this particular target. So there's your two options. I will say this, it ignores pretty much all of your settings at that point. So if you've got placements that you have said, do not show my ads on this site, you've got bid modifiers in there, it basically ignores all of that and says, well, you put me in charge, I know best, off we go. So use with caution. And the other big tip I'll give you with this is use that CPA target, or maximum, whatever you're using, to control the volume of conversions. In other words, to control the spend in that campaign. So don't use the budget for this. This is a little counterintuitive, and this was a tip that my mate at Google gave me. Let's go back to that one we just showed before, $10.90. If you ramp that target up, let's say to $13 or $15, that opens up the floodgates for Google to be able to show your ad in many more places, and that will get you that higher volume of leads. Yes, you'll end up spending a little bit more per lead, but that's what gets you the volume. If you want less, if you want to spend less, then lower the target down to, let's say, $8 or $9. So that constricts Google, and you're going to get less volume. It's going to do, if you have the data, a reasonable job of getting you those cheaper leads, but use that target to control things rather than that sort of more clumsy approach of just that campaign budget as a whole. I mean, that will work too, but it's not the best way to do it. If you want to spend less, rather than just push the budget down from $3,000 to $2,000, change the target, and you'll probably end up with almost as many leads, a little bit less, but you should get them for a little bit cheaper. Hopefully that makes sense.
You know, I'll just say, broadly speaking, Mike, you made some interesting observations about how the work you do at WebSavvy can beat Google's conversion optimizer the majority of the time, or a lot sooner. At the very least, you know, it's a worthy goal. You know, if you're listening today and you're like, I want to improve my AdWords skills and I want to be able to pick up more clients in the future, you know, it's a worthy goal to get your own skills to the place where you can definitely beat conversion optimizer, and tell people that you can beat any of those automated systems.
Now, I don't know where this is going to go in future. I mean, I think that, okay, random tangent, I think that where Google is going, it's going to go the world of Forex trading, where the computers run the system, you know, the robots run the asylum, and there is so much data available there, and the algorithms are so good that it is virtually impossible for any one human to beat that system working at the speed that system works at. I mean, I believe in Forex now, literally where your office is determines how successful you're going to be, because you want to be as close as possible to the exchange, because there's extra few milliseconds of getting the data to you matter in the Forex world at the levels that they play at, which is insane. I don't think that'll ever be the case with Google. Like, you have to move to Mountain View to run accounts well or anything like that. But I do think that bidding in particular, and you look at all of the things that Google are automating with dynamic search ads, with AdWords Express, I mean, clearly they're making inroads into this where they're picking keywords, they're writing ads, they're certainly bidding, I think, will be the first thing to go here. I suspect that none of us will be doing manual bidding in 3 years. I think that the system will be that good, and there will be so much data available to Google. And Google, unlike Forex, Google won't share all of that data with us, but even if they did, we'd drown in it. and it has to be an algorithm that uses that data to bid effectively. I mean, you look at all of the stuff that they consider now in terms of where that person is, what device they're on, what day of the week is it, what the weather is. We talked about with Quality Score that at one point they looked at, you know, the phase of the lunar cycle to see if that made a difference. Clearly, they're looking at an awful lot of data. They're never going to give us all of that. Therefore, we're probably going to have to allow Google more and more control in the future, and they will get better and better. I mean, certainly these automated systems have improved vastly in the last 3 years. Another 3 years' time, I suspect they're going to be blindingly good. So that's just my random tangent.
So I'm gonna paraphrase Ken's question. Well, okay, no, I'll read it verbatim and then you can play with it. Like doing CPA, I can't continue doing A/B testing on different AdWords, correct? I have to stick with one ad group ad and keep it. Is that right?
No,
Yeah,
you can have you can have two in there. Google just doesn't like change. So if you're doing proper split testing and you're quickly finding a winner and a loser, and you're deleting your loser and you're writing a new challenger and you're deleting the loser and writing a new challenger, then Google gets a little bit jumpy and a little bit confused over what to do, and that can hurt your results when Google's running the show. You can still do it. It particularly doesn't like massive changes. So, you know, changing the destination URL is a no-no. Writing a new ad, look, it might confuse things for a little bit. You might get a little blip in the data, but it should recover from that fairly quickly. Again, it kind of comes down to the volume of data going through that ad group. That's really a sort of determining factor. If you've only got a couple of conversions a week in that ad group, then yeah, changing ads is probably going to confuse it a little bit more. If you're doing 30 a day, then it's probably going to recover much faster. It's going to get a read on how that new ad converts much faster and therefore adjust quicker.
So Cassandra has a question, and it reminds me kind of like playing Monopoly on my iPhone, you know, where you just set it so that the AI is playing for you, and what if all the players are doing that? And so she says, my concern with using CPA bidding, and we don't, is what if my competitors are using it? Does that give them an advantage because we're actually trying to bid against Google?
Well, ultimately, I think of this because a lot of people spend a lot of time looking at competitors, and I don't, because for me, everything comes down to conversion and profit. So all of the Google tools will tell you, yeah, let's say keyword tool, tells you how many people roughly are searching for a particular term on a particular month. But what none of them can tell you is how well that keyword is going to convert for you, given your USP, given your site, your design, your call to action, your offer, all of that. That's what matters. That's what determines what's profitable for you. So that keyword that might be profitable for you is not near profitable for someone else, and vice versa. So I think we're going to approach that place where Google is doing the bidding for everybody. I don't quite know how they're going to deal with that, but we'll certainly,
or otherwise.
yeah, Chinese walls across 30 different advertisers. We'll certainly keep testing it from time to time, but yeah, we need a pretty understanding client to, from the results we've seen, to even ask whether we can give that a crack, because like I say, almost every time the results get worse fairly quickly, and that's just, yeah, it's just, you can't do that in the real world.
Well, you know, and you made a really good point. And Mike, I'm going to underline your point, and then I'm going to one-up you. But I'm not really one-upping you. I'm just further expanding on what you're saying. That it's what allows you to win long-term in this game is you having a better sales process after the click than your competitors do. And that's something, even if Google is bidding against Google, that's something that your competitors cannot ever have an advantage. If you know, a customer that shows up on your doorstep is treated better, followed up with faster, shown better offers than if they show up on your competitor's doorstep and they spend more money with you, you win the Google game.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like the game of Monopoly. If a person who lands on your property pays you more money than the person who lands on your competitor's property, you're going to be the one that's going to be able to put up more houses and eventually more hotels. That really is how it works. So Mike, the comment about one-upping you is I was just going to say, in the end, it is going to come down to your offer and your USP. But you already mentioned that, so I'm not really one-upping you at all.
Well, I'm paraphrasing Dan Kennedy. He said it best. Other than the number one is the most dangerous number to any business. He said that the winner is not the business that pays the least per lead. The winner is the business that can afford to pay the most. And most people get that wrong. Most people start AdWords. Most of the briefs that we still get are, I want to reduce my CPA. Entire businesses run on that premise. We will reduce your CPA by X dollars, or don't give us any more money. Reducing CPA is not the target. That's easy. You can do that with any account. You just chop out all the expensive keywords. The problem with doing that is volume. You might drop through the floor if you do that too aggressively. It's very easy to do. I can meet any CPA target. I can meet the CPA target of $1. It just won't get you very many leads, depending on the account. The goal should not be to reduce CPA. The goal is to increase profitability. And Joe, I know you're on the call, Joe Bowers. We've had a little discussion about this on the Google Plus forum. I'm still waiting for Joe's reply, just quietly. I think we're chatting in a couple of hours too on a VIP call. But he has gone away and had a thing and arguing with that a little bit. But I'm just waiting for Joe to come back and tell me what is more important than profit. Because for me, I'm happy to be proven wrong or convinced otherwise. So knock yourself out, Joe. I'm looking forward to it. But for me, that's the reason we're in business, is to make and keep customers. And we do that by making a profit so that we can continue to do that. So maximizing profit is the game as far as I'm concerned. So I've used this example often. I don't know if it warrants the whole story now, but a client with 50 conversions per week at $30 CPA, because we knew that the break even for this client was $100, i.e. we knew there was lots of wiggle room there. You're getting leads for 30, so you're making $70 gross profit, 100 minus 30. We knew from the way that account was set up and from looking at the data that increasing CPA, we could get double the volume. So the question then becomes, do you want 50 lots of $70 or do you want 100 lots of $60? Clearly, the latter is a better option. But the CPA went from $30 up to 40, which many people would consider the wrong thing to do. But profit almost doubled as a result of doing that. So profit has to be the game. And upsells. I mean, you talked about the sales process. We're not just talking about improving the conversion rate on that page. It's what comes after that, like you said, in terms of how you treat that customer and how that is delivered. What else you then sell them, either immediately or later down the track. So that's why we talked about lifetime value in the very, very first module. If your lifetime value is 10 times that of your competitor because you have the Ascension model, Perry has this in place, right? You've got Mastermind, then you go round table, and then there's 4-man intensives, and there's one-on-one coaching. If you want to play the game, you can keep on playing the game at a higher and higher and higher level, which means that the average person coming in is now worth so much more, which means you can afford to spend more to win that customer. Perry's been teaching that for at least 10 years.
And I sometimes ask people, I'm like, do you have the Monopoly game app on your iPhone or iPad? If you do and you haven't played it a while, pull it out and play it seriously, because this is the same game.
Yeah. Can I actually give a shout out to a game that changed my life? Robert Kiyosaki. Now, regardless of what you think about Kiyosaki, he is a polarizing figure for sure. Some people hate him, some people love him. He changed my life for the better. Here's a game called Cashflow 101. I paid $350 for this game 17 years ago. It's now about $50, so it's now the same as Monopoly. If you like Monopoly, if you like the game of business, please do yourself a favour and grab a copy of Cashflow 101. If you have kids and you like playing Monopoly with your kids, there is a Cashflow for Kids, which rocks. I've played this with a room of 20 accounting students at a time, and taught 20 accounting kids, 18-year-olds, how to play this game, and spend an afternoon doing this on more than one occasion with a whole room of people. And they've learned more about how money works in the real world in an afternoon playing this than they did in a year's worth of doing an accounting course. It is phenomenal. It's kind of real world Monopoly, but it's I can absolutely say hand on heart that game changed my life. That's what got me into real estate investing back in the day and made us a bit of cash. So yeah, Cashflow 101. Go get a copy.
Yeah, and several people in the comment box are agreeing with you. Carmen and Ken and more. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fabulous. Right, a little bit on Tag Manager, and then we'll wrap up with some questions. So, Tag Manager. What is Tag Manager? Tag Manager is essentially a box. It's a container that goes on every page of your website. And it's just an empty box that sits there waiting for you to go throw some code into it. So why would you want to use Google Tag Manager? Well, once you've got this container, this empty box installed on every page of the site, now you don't have to go and hassle or wait for the devs every time you need to make a change in the code. So if you want to add some new conversion tracking, or you want to change your analytics and upgrade from Classic to Universal, which I highly recommend you do now that all of the remarketing stuff is in there, then you don't need to go back and hassle them and maybe wait 6 weeks for that to happen. You can go, and I'll show you exactly how to do this in a second. You can go into the GTM Google Tag Manager interface, make those changes in literally a minute or two, test those before you roll them out, always good to do until you're very competent with how to use this, and then make those changes live on the site without having to go and get IT or a web dev to help. So what are we talking about? Well, there's 3 parts to it, but there's only the top 2 that you need to worry about to begin with. There are tags, and a tag is just a bit of code, essentially, and there are rules, and that's rules of when to use these bits of code. And there are macros built in there, which are just ways to shortcut this and make things faster, but you really don't need to worry about that when we're starting out. So let's walk through how to use this to do the stuff that we've been talking about today. AdWords conversion tracking, Google Analytics, and even a little bit of remarketing as well, just to preempt next week's fun. So the first thing you need to do is you need to add that empty box, that container, to every page. So you go and create a new Google Tag Manager account. Follow your nose, very easy to do. And we've got one here. This is our demo one, Bright Blue Sky, which thank you, Aidan, for the name. It spits out a chunk of code down the bottom there, and you just need to put that where it tells you immediately after the opening body tag. You put that on every page of your site. So you may need to get the devs to help with that. If you're running WordPress, we usually, just so you know, we usually hack, I think it's the header.php file, and go into the header.php file, put this in, and then we're done. So that's the first bit. You put the box, the container, on every page of the site. And then you find this big red new button, and you create a new tag. Dead easy. Give it a name. I'm going to do analytics first, and then you select from the tag type. Now, the first time you're in that tag type, you see this massive list, and you see all this stuff, and you think, bloody hell, what have I got myself into here? But there's really only 4 that you need to worry about for now. At the top, we've got AdWords conversion and AdWords remarketing, because funnily enough, being a Google product, they make this very easy to insert Google code for you. And under Google Analytics, the 6th one down on the list, you've got Universal and Classic. depending on which version of analytics you use. So let's do analytics first. So you come down to analytics and you click on whichever one of those two you use, probably going to be universal. So we'll do analytics first. We're going to add the tag. So you do exactly what we've just seen. Create the name, choose universal analytics or classic, depending on which one you're using, from that list of tag type. And once you've chosen the tag type, then a couple of other boxes open up. You're going to throw in there your tracking ID. So that's that UA number that you got when you set up your Google Analytics account, the one that you sent your web dev once upon a time and said, please put this on every page of my site. You put that in there and you tick the box underneath that to enable display advertising features. That gets you a bunch of additional reporting and some extra fun stuff when we get to remarketing next week. And if you're doing e-commerce, you scroll down under the more settings and find this enable enhanced e-com. Again, sorry, it's not an analytics course, but you do want to use enhanced e-com. There's some really cool reports in there. Here's more about that if that applies to you. Grab that short code. I don't think there's going to be too many of us on the call, although it sounds like we've got a few people selling stuff. So you may want to look into enhanced e-com tracking using universal analytics with that short code. And again, I'll throw that in the Google Plus area afterwards. Now you've got your tag set up. Now the other part is you just need a rule. And for analytics, the rule is fire this tag, in other words, put this code on every page of my site. And Google are very handy. They actually give you this default rule of all pages. That's there for you when you set it up. So you just say, yep, this tag on all pages, hit save. Done. Next, we're going to set up AdWords conversion tracking. Same deal. We give it a name. We choose AdWords conversion tracking. Remember, that was at the top of the big long list under tag type. And now some different boxes open up. And now we have to insert at least the first two things. But from now on, we're just going to say at least the top three, because we're going to have a value for every single conversion that we do from now on. And you're going to go into your AdWords campaign, go to the conversion section of your AdWords campaign, find that chunk of code. Remember, before we were coming down to the bottom here and pressing the email instructions and tag and sending off to our web dev and waiting 6 weeks and getting a bill to do this. Now we're going to do it ourselves. You just have to go and cut and paste the conversion ID, which is that, 10-digit number, the conversion label, the big long string of gobbledygook, and we have to come up with a value. Always going to use a value. So you just plug those in the boxes in the tag on Google Tag Manager, the left-hand side of the screen, and hit save. Now we have a tag, we need a rule to go with that. And for our conversion tracking, we only want to put that code, that tag, on our thank you pages. So we say, here's a rule, URL contains /thank you. When you find a page that matches this rule, squirt this code into that container. In other words, put that piece of code on that page, but only on that page, or the pages that match that rule. So if you've got thank you 1, thank you 2, thank you 3, this rule would match all of those, and you only need one rule to put your conversion tracking code on all 3 of those thank you pages. Nice and easy. Hit save, and you're done. And then the last one, we're going to do remarketing. Exactly the same really as conversion. We're going to give it a name. We're going to choose remarketing from the drop-down list, and we're going to go find our conversion ID and our conversion label. I'll show you how to do that on the next screen for remarketing and plug them into the box. So to get those, over in AdWords, we come down to the shared library section of our AdWords account. And again, we're going to talk all about remarketing tags next week. So if you haven't done this yet, if you don't have a remarketing tag, don't worry, wait until next week. If you already have a remarketing tag, this is how to find that conversion ID and the conversion label. So it's called the same thing, even though this is for remarketing. It lives in the shared library. Once you've got to the audiences page in shared library, you're going to find this remarketing tag. The middle box here is going to be top right of your screen. You're going to click on tag details, and now over on the right hand side here, you're going to click on, by default it'll be on the details tab at the top. You're going to click on the setup tab up the top there, And then looking through that code, you can see 3 lines from the bottom there, var Google conversion ID. That's the number that you want to pull out and stick into Tag Manager. And then a little bit further down, you've got the conversion label. Cut and paste that out, stick it in Google Tag Manager. So that's our tag set up for remarketing, and then we need a rule. Now, remarketing, obviously, we want on every page of our site. There are a couple of exceptions why you wouldn't do that, but for the most part, 99% of the time, you want remarketing code on every single page. We've already got that rule made, so we tick the all pages rule and hit save. That easy. What I suggest you do every single time, though, is you'll find these 3 buttons across the top of Tag Manager. Always hit preview first. So go into the debug mode, preview how that works, make sure that everything is working as expected, and then hit the big publish button. So when you publish, it creates a new version of your container. So it obviously starts at V1, version 1, version 2, version 3. Every time you make a change, you just publish that new version, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. The container is already on every page of your site. When you publish a new version of the container, the code on your site doesn't need to change. The code that goes into that container changes. So you just have to make these changes out here in GTM behind the scenes, and you have access to that. We now pretty much insist across the board, depending on the client, but we pretty much insist that they use GTM and that we have access to that. So if we do need to change conversion tracking, change analytics, or do some other funky stuff with code, we're able to do that very, very quickly, very, very easily, and just push those new changes out from GTM, and that'll be site-wide instantly. It doesn't take ages and ages to go through the system. It all happens instantly. And then just a couple of little tips around troubleshooting all of this. Obviously, there are many, many different problems that you might have, but a couple of things that will help. Use Tag Assistant. So this is a Chrome extension that I recommend you add to Chrome. Hopefully you're using Chrome, although I did meet someone the other day that doesn't because of some weird security thing that I'd never heard of. But anyway, so some people have their little tinfoil hats on and won't use Chrome. I live in Google land. I'm logged in permanently. I live on Google products, so I use Chrome. I love it. It syncs across all of my devices. Tag Assistant is a great little extension that you can put on there, and that'll show you visually whenever you visit a page how many tags, how many bits of code there are on that page, and you can click the little thing up in the toolbar across the top, and it shows you all of the code snippets that live on that site. Really, really easy way to quickly debug a site. Maybe you're looking at a client site for the first time. You want to see which version or versions of analytics they've installed, and do they have remarketing code. So Tag Assistant's a great little extension to do that. And then to test or troubleshoot the call tracking stuff, the on-site call tracking, there is no way I know of other than clicking on your own ad. So we would always use a brand ad to do that, just so it's not going to cost the client more than a few cents. If you don't have a brand campaign running, which you probably will have after Module 4, create one just so that you can go in, click on that ad, and that's the only way I know of that you can test if that phone number is swapping out properly, because that phone number will only change for AdWords traffic. So there's no other way of getting that phone number to change other than visiting the site via an AdWords ad. A couple of action steps for you for this module. Go and audit what you already have. So with fresh eyes now, log into both AdWords, the conversion section of AdWords, and Google Analytics. The gold section, remember, was on that right-hand view column in your admin panel of Analytics, and just audit what you've got there. Go through that with fresh eyes. Make sure that all of those have some sort of value. You'll probably find that very few of them do, whether that's conversions in AdWords or goals in Analytics. You'll probably find many of them don't have any values. Please add some values. Your old reports will be next to useless, but your reports from this point forward will now become much more valuable. Just in case we needed one more slide to hammer that home, there you go. and ensure we went through the 4 different steps that you need to link AdWords and Analytics properly in all the different places. Make sure that those are all linked properly. And I don't have a slide for it, but I highly recommend that you either go and print out or save the planet, go sit in front of a screen and read Avanash's 2 blog posts, the one on macro and micro conversions, the one on assigning value, and or go have a look at the workshop that I ran, a couple of years ago now, on analytics. You've got the link to that in Module 1. Other than some questions, which I'm sure there may still be a couple, that's it for this week on the hour-and-a-half mark to the minute. And next week, my favorite topic, display network and remarketing.
Mike, I can recommend a great course if you like that.
Starts
Taught
with
by
D and rhymes with NBC. Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Delta November Bravo Charlie. So good. Can you pop back to the slide where you show that short URL again about the tags and
That
so
one?
on?
No.
Joe wanted further back.
I'm not entirely sure which one we're aiming at. That one? E-commerce tracking?
There we go. Yeah.
That's the last one. Yeah, sorry, I didn't give you enough time to write that down, did I?
Yes, correct. So I'm going to copy that into the chat box, and
Fantastic. And please, everyone, do click on all of those links in the chat box, because that will disappear in a couple of minutes' time when the webinar ends. So click them all now, open up all those tabs, and you'll have those. But yeah, I will at some stage today get around to putting all of those links into the Google Plus community.
So Greg says, with a subscription site, would you put the tag manager code on just the outside or public pages, or all the pages, including the inside or private pages?
I'd put it on everything, because I would still want to use Google Analytics to look at what happens inside the member gated part. You may have events that you want to fire in there. You may want to look at how people use the system. You might want to remarket to people. I mean, most systems have a way that you can automate this. I've just thought of this off the top of my head as we're going through it, but you might want to remarket to people that you know have become members, i.e. they've hit your thank you for becoming a member page, but they haven't posted in 30 days. So to get those people back into your membership area, you could set up a remarketing campaign to do just that. So this group of people over here that you know, but not the ones that are using it all the time, we don't want to annoy them, unless of course you've got a brand new product that you want to market to them. But you could remarket to people to get them back across and come back and play in the members area, and remarketing would be an easy way to do that if you've got the code set up. So yeah, I'd put GTM on everything and then worry about how you're going to use it later.
So let's see. Carmen asks, can you comment again on why you recommend Universal over Classic?
Because eventually you're going to have to use it, Carmen. Google will sunset Classic at some stage, probably not for a long time yet. You certainly don't have to change. There is no pressing reason to change if you're using Classic, so don't worry. It's not going away anytime soon. Universal, when it came out, didn't have certain features, so we didn't change sites across to it for the longest time. Remarketing was one of the main ones there. But now that is fixed, you can even now use your analytics remarketing lists with RLSA. If that was gobbledygook to you, don't worry, I'll explain that next week, but that's quite cool. Yeah. The main reason is if you are an e-commerce site, the new e-commerce reporting, which is the enhanced e-commerce stuff that we're looking at here, is a vast improvement on the e-commerce reporting in Classic. So if you're an e-com store, then I'd recommend moving across. Excuse me.
Good. So people looking forward to the remarketing presentation, which is good.
Me too.
John asks, what are some good remarketing resources to review in preparation for next week's session?
Oh my lord. What do I have out there? We've probably got some stuff on our blog at websavvy.com.au. I wouldn't have a clue what is there. I know that we have done a number of posts in the past. I know that the team are working on a whole remarketing pack at the moment, but obviously don't go and buy anything else. I'm going to cover all the good bits next week. What's good to review? The AdWords Help Centers. The best bit you can sort out before we talk about next week is your privacy policy. So there are 2 pages in the Google Help Center, and I obviously don't have any shortcodes handy, but I will share those next week. But search for something like AdWords Remarketing Privacy Policy, and you'll find a couple of pages in the Google Help Center. You do need to update your privacy policy if you are using remarketing. You need to talk about cookies and how you're using those, how you're advertising to people using those cookies. So do go and have a look at that. I'm not going to write you a privacy policy next week. My public liability insurance doesn't cover that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. You may want to, just hypothetically, just saying, you may want to go look at some of the big retailers in the space that are doing a very good job of remarketing, guys like ASOS or Iconic, and potentially maybe go have a look at their privacy policy and see what they're saying and swipe and deploy, hypothetically saying, but I'm not a lawyer, get your own advice. That's probably a good place to start. If you have bought Display Network Bootcamp that we recorded about a year or something ago. Was it really? Wow, probably time for an update on that then at some point later on this year. Then I love you and I owe you a beer and thank you for buying. If you haven't, you don't need to go and buy. Again, we'll cover the best bits. That was, what did we do? I think there was a 6-module course. So there's probably about 10 hours in there. I'm going to squeeze as much of that into 90 minutes as I possibly can next week. We may even run a bit over time. By the end of next week, if you're as excited as I am by display network and remarketing, then for sure, knock yourself out. Go buy the course if you want to, but you certainly don't need to buy that in preparation for next week. That's the idea of why you're here in this one. I'm jabbering because I can't think of any other resource to send you to at this point.
I think you're probably good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I did a webinar recently on some advanced remarketing, but that's probably not good preparation for next week, and I don't know where that lives at the moment. I think it's in a private Facebook forum, so I'll shut up at this point. I think we're good.
Cool. And the Google Plus community, if you've paid your fee, you'll have access to that ongoing long after the course is over. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what Josh and Jeremy decided on that. I wasn't sure if that was ending at the 12-week point or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, I don't see any reason why we would pull that down. All the links are in there, all the discussions in there. I probably won't be quite as active in there by the time we get past the end of this course, obviously. I'm in there every day at the moment. We've had some great discussions, but yeah, I'm sure we'll keep it going and keep all of the links live in there.
Yeah, our standard MO is the community stays open. The person running the community may not be doing ongoing contribution, but the links, the questions, the resources, and all that, all of which are searchable, those stay up and available. Yep. So good.
I know that we certainly have the DNBC group still up, and there's still an occasional question that floats past, and 2 years later, yep, I'll still go and play in there every now and again and update people as to new changes. So that's just part of the benefit of why you're here and part of this lovely community. Thank you for being part of it.
Right. So good. And Mike, we'll look forward to session number 7 on display and remarketing. And I've seen you teach this material before, and it's excellent. It's strangely thrilling. So
on that note, I'm going to leave now.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye now.